was waiting for the drummer to show up. There he is. Yeah. Welcome to OverDrive, hour number 3. Jim, Tatti, Frankie, Corrado, and Mike DeStefano with you, a.k.a. Al's brother. Also, maybe my cousin. Maybe.
Maybe guy.
I think it's a yes guy. I really do.
Could be.
I see it. I see the resemblance.
Same kind of area.
Did I shave and find out if
I would always tell you to be yourself.
Yeah. I haven't shaved this beard since high school.
Really?
Yeah. I have not
we
been
have something in
clean-shaven
common
since
because high school.
Yeah, the caterpillar's been around since high school.
Seen a lot of butterflies.
Look at you guys go. You guys even own a razor at this point?
I had a scare.
Sure. Yeah, you must. Yeah,
yeah. Cleaned up this morning. Cleaned up a little bit around the edge.
I saw you. I mean, you're streamlined there. You've tightened everything up.
I had a scare, though. My last haircut I had, I went and I saw a different barber.
Oh, bad move. Bad move.
Well, mine moved away, so I got to find someone else.
That and the road haircut. Bad move.
Oh, was it ever? He absolutely butchered my hair. Butchered the beard, too. It was a bad scene for about a week until it grew back in.
You can't go road
Wasn't
haircut.
good.
No.
Like, how dire of a situation would it be for you to have to go road
I was on the road covering the Stanley Cup final, went into Philadelphia, said, just trim it. Whoa, guy. Guy, can I have some of that back?
Did someone tell you that you had to get a haircut?
No, I just felt like one, and I was going to be on the road for a while, and I had some time, and big mistake. Big mistake.
I remember one time, Lou, we had a player get called up.
Oh.
And his hair was a little long, and he had a little too much scruff.
Oh,
and let's just say Lou got a hold of him in the morning.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
No, basically the conversation was this, and we heard it in the room. It was, if you don't shave your beard and get a haircut, don't bother showing up to the game tonight, and walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any names? Can you do that?
I can't give you names. You know that. It's in the vault.
What's the old saying?
It's an unfortunate set of circumstances. It's no one's fault.
There it is.
No, it's not a rule. It's an expectation.
That's right. Yeah.
Clean shaven.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
It was an expectation. So, anyways, yeah, the expectation wasn't met. The player shaved and got a haircut and came back for the game that night.
And how much did he play?
We were a little worried, though.
Yeah.
You never know.
I don't know if this guy can buy into the program here.
You never know. Yeah.
Did he had to have a tie and the whole 9 yards, right? I mean, did he go out and buy something?
Well, no. So we were at home, like we were in Toronto.
Yeah,
Guy
but
gets
still,
called up.
He has to look a certain way
look,
too,
like
right?
Lou was not there every day with the Marlies, so a couple days growth and maybe your hair is a little long. You could get away with it. Yeah. When you're playing for the big club, Lou's there every day. He's got eyes on you.
I got to tell you, like a Scotty Bowman, this goes way back. I was at Global, and he was in Buffalo, and we wanted to interview him and get his take on what was happening with the Sabres. The Sabres came out and their sticks, you know, when you come out after they're all over the place, right? Blows the whistle, calls everybody over, and the tone was remarkable. It was like, oh, sorry, guy. I think we can do a better job of those sticks, don't you? 25 guys with the sticks. They had them in an orderly fashion, right?
Nowadays,
oh, man, I just looked at him and went, holy cow.
It's crazy how different it is because nowadays, you know, one of the equipment guys will literally stand on the bench to start practice. And as everyone filters onto the ice, you hand him your stick, he puts them nice in order, and you go about your business. But I think back then, that's part of just like, hey, we keep our house clean here.
Yeah, it was like a yard sale. I mean, he had a point, but the way they responded, it was like, ooh, I wonder who the boss is here.
Do you think they were a little scared?
Oh, yeah.
That's when you don't want him to make an example out of one guy. You know, there's that one guy who probably doesn't play that much. Maybe he's a little louder. Like, that's going to be my whipping boy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the guy who doesn't fix the stick rack. He's done for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Where'd that guy go? We don't know. He's not here.
And we never saw him again. I think he ended up in Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo.
All the stories, you know, in the minors, as you know, like we talked to Ralphie.
Ralphie's got an endless supply.
He's always got
Ralphie was that guy.
Something always goes through Kalamazoo. In every story in the minors, it's like, well, we were rolling through Kalamazoo. It was the middle of winter. And
1986.
And then the story starts. And maybe Binghamton. Second.
Bingo. Yeah, bingo.
Yeah. Yeah, we were in bingo. It was minus 30 outside. You couldn't see anything, but there we were. We had to play. And then
they had the popcorn in the glove, and
Yeah, popcorn in the glove. Yeah. Times have changed.
Ralphie is the best. So soccer, next stop will be Wednesday against Colombia, and we'll have that here on the radio and on the TV side at 3 o'clock. So then OverDrive that particular day, Dave Feschuk will be here. We'll only be 2 hours long, and we'll be on location.
Rate's the same, though, right?
That's right. Rate is the same on location. It'll be the first video broadcast ever from Yes Guy headquarters.
All right.
We look forward to that.
Up?
So, yeah, we're working on that. So let's deal with the soccer story. Let's bring in Amy Walsh, now former Canadian soccer Olympian, CBC and TSN soccer analyst. Amy, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing very well today. Also, Footy Prime, the podcast, if you could add that one in there.
Oh, we just did. There we go. It's done.
That's our producer, Doogie's fault.
Yeah, I'm just reading what's in front of me, Amy. My apologies, and we'll be getting a new producer sometime in the next hour. So, I mean, obviously the focus is back on the players. Not that there was any doubt, but boy, have they responded, haven't they?
Oh, my goodness. I'm still buzzing today. Like, I will never tire of talking about that kind of performance. I mean, these players are just in the first place, but the nature of these performances, the manner with which they're winning these matches, and they've won 2, by the way, but they're on 0 points.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to the resilience of this team and the spirit and the guts and the character that they have that we always knew that they did. But they just seem to rise to the occasion when everything seems against them, when their backs are up against the wall. And it just seemed to me, and you heard it in Vanessa Gilles' I think now iconic comments post-game, we are not cheaters and we're a damn good team, right? I mean, everyone's heard the quote. I could listen to it over and over again, but it was like everything that was about that scandal was un-Canadian. I think that's why, as Canadians, didn't sit well with us. We don't care that it's a rampant practice, that it's pervasive in the modern game. I don't care about that. Cheating's cheating, right? And it felt like what those players did, the way with which they emphatically dispatched of France was saying that was un-Canadian. This is Canadian. Everything that we're doing here, this is how Canadians operate. This is who we are. And I just adored that. I never once doubted them, even when they went 1-0 down. And it was impressive all around.
So many times as an athlete, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. People say you can only control what you can control. There's no sense in paying attention to things that are out of your control. This is very much a situation for the players that was out of their control. But when it came time for them to start taking care of what they can control, they showed that they are world-class players, especially, amongst their peers. How important do you think that kind of talk and that saying would have been for the players as they dealt with this?
That was completely it. And I think initially, like the feelings that I was feeling, ex-teammates of mine that are covering the game now, we're privileged to do so, like Claire Rustad, my friend Diana Matheson, the icon that Diana Matheson is for starting the Northern Super League. She's bringing professional women's soccer to Canada, but she scored that incredible goal to win them the bronze medal in 2012, again against France. So, historically, this team has had success at Olympics versus France. But you look at this team, and I think initially they were feeling pretty pissed off, too, because that's what I was feeling. I was enraged. I was furious that, again, these players were robbed of just worrying about the performance. And they had to address issues that were off the pitch. But then that kind of dies down a little bit. And I imagine, because I can't pretend to know what they're feeling. I never had to deal with anything of this nature. But, when it comes down to it, I think that this team is galvanized. And initially it was probably in their hatred of one, the act of what was done, that it was something that was not within their control. You put trust in your technical staff that they're going to do right by you, and it was a betrayal. But after that, I think you look inside and you look at who's across from you, and it's just this sense of belief, I think, that was talked about pre-tournament by Bev Priestman and others. But I think there's a sense in there that's unwavering within that locker room and within that group. And you're just seeing it in spades. And so we have to remember, too, that a year ago at the Women's World Cup, this is a team that was kind of teetering on the edge, where they were, again, kind of bare in front of the world, where they'd been in front of the Heritage Committee. They'd had funding pulled from them. They didn't perform, and we held them to account for it. But then they turned the page really quickly, and they started to perform. They started to build some momentum, and then they come into this tournament, and again, the rug gets ripped out right from under them again. And again, they're performing despite all this. So all of the plaudits, all of the attention, the fact that they've wrestled the narrative back away from the drone flyers and the people who are building the other narratives to say that they're benefiting, and I think that that's pretty dangerous territory to wade into. But now what the players are doing, and they're saying, we're going to run the table, we're going to win this out. Doesn't matter if the extremely punitive 6 points gets downgraded. We don't care. We're going to control, as you just said, it's a cliche, but that's what we're going to do. That's what we can focus on. I just do worry about this team running out of steam in the way of, the emotional and the mental toll that this is going to take on them.
Do you think Canada has an argument there? Like, they've decided today, it was announced that they're going to appeal the 6 point deduction. Like, do they have an argument to try and win that decision?
I think that they do, because I think that I wasn't surprised to see a points deduction levied against them, that FIFA came down hard on this team to make an example of them. I mean, there's an argument to be made as well. Like, Canada we're still minnows in the world of football. So if this is the U.S., and I'm talking purely women's football, if this is the U.S., if this is Spain, this is even France, as the hosts, are they as harsh in their punishment? So I think that bias aside, I think if you just look for a precedent, there isn't one. So 6 points, I mean, that is just saying we would like to kick you out of the competition, but we can't, not for the sporting integrity, but for the integrity of how the tournament operates, so that each team in the group gets 3 group games and you move on and the math makes sense, right? So I think, though, so they hamstring them, they kind of chop off their legs where they're standing and make it incapable or almost impossible to make it out of the group. And now, against all odds, they've done it. So I don't think that affects any judgment that's going to pass. But I wouldn't be surprised, that said, if it stayed at 6. But I think what's going to happen is going to be downgraded to 3. And I'm hopeful that that's what will happen. But again, I don't think it changes the incredible course that this team is on to defend their gold medal, because that's gotten lost in the narrative as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You said a word before that I'd been searching for, and that was betrayal, which is exactly what this is. And I'd like you to speak a little more on that, because sometimes we just move on with the story, but the betrayal is severe. It happens as the defending gold medal soccer side is about to start its defense of that gold medal, and it happens obviously at the Olympics. I mean, I couldn't think of a more vulnerable position for an athlete to be in. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would, and also within the context of the Olympics. Like, I was lucky enough to go in 2008, and there's no greater sense of pride than when you pull on your jersey and you represent your country and you hear that anthem. But that at the Olympics, there's a special kind of feeling about it, because you're standing shoulder to shoulder with the best of the best from your country in other events, and you're part of that greater delegation. And you're very cognizant of the fact that they're also holding you to account. So for this to happen at such a setting within that context, it feels like it's even worse. It's an even greater kind of sin to commit in the way that you're going to do it, and an even greater betrayal, I think, no matter where it happens. And I think what it pulls into the discussion is this power imbalance, between a player and between a coach and what's happening there, and to make sure that that's sound. And in the women's game, this is something that there's a reckoning that has to happen. FIFA hasn't come down hard enough on it, because the women's game's growing exponentially, but there's a massive difference between the heavyweights of the games that I already mentioned. I would throw Canada in there as well. And then as the World Cup expanded to 32 teams, you saw these upstarts, you saw these minnows perform. But it was, again, in spite of sexual assault. It was in spite of funding being pulled on teams. So if FIFA took care kind of their own house and came down as swiftly and as strongly in issues of racist chants or sexual abuse, the same way that they've punished Canada for drone flying and spying, and to be clear, that's cheating. I agree that they should be sanctioned. I think that the footballing world would be in a much better place. But to go back to what you're saying about a betrayal, as a player, there's blind trust that's being put in the people who are kind of taking care of things outside of your silo as a player for your performance and making sure that you're the best you can be on the day. And you put faith in them to do that. And so that is like I don't know how you come back from that. So you have to clean house 100%. I think Andy Spence has done a good job on the touchline. But if you're Canada Soccer, if you're Kevin Blue, I think you have to take a hard look at your staff, at what's happening in the preparations for these tournaments, and make sure that you're doing right by way of the players. Because all that good momentum that was gleaned during Copa America and what Jesse Marsh has done with the men's team, this is meant to be added on to that. And now we're back to square one again. So you do right by the players, because the players, again, are shifting this narrative to the positive, and it's thanks to their performances, not to the actions of the staff members.
So, Amy, there's definitely going to be, punishments handed down within Canada Soccer, and rightfully so. How much of what happens next is them kind of doing an internal audit as far as how did we get here? Like, why did we feel like we needed to use drones and cheat? Like, did we not have enough resources? Was there not enough money for us to kind of do things the right way? Why did we kind of have staff members resort to this? Do you think that's something that comes up in all this? And if it does that lead to maybe more money and more resources being allocated so they can actually watch tape and not have to cheat?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think, resource allocation and how we're propping up this soccer culture, and I think who we rightfully want to become as a soccer nation, even as a sporting nation, right? Like we claim to be as Canadians with all the sports, and our sports get very little support from the government. This is not to point the finger to it, but I think it's part of the issue. But for Canada Soccer, they absolutely have to take a hard look at what's going on. I think Kevin Blue came in as CEO and General Secretary, has done a commendable job with addressing things head on. I think that Peter Aguso, the newly elected president, who's been in for about 3 months, has also done a good job. But we forget with what we're dealing with in the here and now with this drone scandal and the cheating, is that there's still a CBA for the men's and women's teams that remains unsigned. There's still litigation from the Women's Professional Players Association suing past board members. There's sexual assault that's not so long ago with people who are working for the Vancouver Whitecaps. There's a lot to reckon with in this country, and it goes really, really deep. It's really deeply rooted and embedded, I think, in the soccer culture in this country. So it's allocation of resources. It's making sure our youth systems and have the proper people in place to make sure that they're shepherded on. But it has to be a bottom-up approach. You have to have the right people who are in place who are calling the shots. But I think you have to take care of what's in between. We have soccer is the most played sport in Canada. More kids register playing soccer than in hockey. But then what's happening when you get to the pay-to-play and the elite level? And then what's happening after that? And who is in charge to make sure that these players, and it's an accessible sport, and then you make your way all the way up. I think that we have to take care of that pyramid, but specifically what's happening in the middle to make sure that the right people get the right resources in order to have success, and that they're highly vetted so that you have the right people in there so they're making the right choices. People make mistakes, but I don't think that Canadians were content now, but also just looking towards the future with people who are going to be in there that are just in it for themselves and want to win at all costs. That is not who we are as Canadians, and we have to do better as a sporting organization, as a national sports organization in Canada Soccer.
And I guess, Amy, the concern might be because this happened at the Olympics, that this latest problem might get in the way of solving the other problems. Where are you on that?
Yeah, listen, I think, of course, what they have to do, I can't pretend that, that I have the wherewithal to do that, but obviously they're addressing what's happening immediately now and how can they be of service to best support these athletes, which is, I think, what the narrative absolutely has to shift to. And when you're, whether you're on Twitter or you're in your community or you're chatting with people, that the support and the positivity is felt like by the players over there. And we don't lose that. But you absolutely have to address it, but you're going to have to take a deep dive. I think they keep looking to do things in an expedited fashion where they're going to have this external independent review or audit, and you get it done. You get it done hastily, you get it done quickly, so that you can have some answers and then an actionable plan, so that you can improve things, and then you go back and you address the other matters. But I do believe that we've reached a little bit of a tipping point. It can be frustrating as a stakeholder in the game in this country, where we can't seem to get out of our own way. But I do really believe that we have the right people in charge, and we will get back on the right track. But it's going to take a concerted effort by a lot of people in this game in order to do that.
So, Amy, as of now, the game is pretty much a must-win against Colombia for them. I guess that could change based on the outcome if they get lighter sanctions, but they need the full 3 points. When you look at that matchup against Colombia, how do you like their chances of furthering that redemption story?
I don't think you look past Colombia, but if I'm anybody else right now, I'm pretty scared of Canada. And that was my impression when I watched France take on Colombia. I was like, oh boy, like Canada's in for it here. And this is before that 6-point deduction was applied, and they were kind of reeling, and then they had to react really quickly, and they put together that incredible performance against France. They can kind of control their own destiny. But I think if they set up kind of in a pragmatic fashion where they're rock solid defensively, you got not only Vanessa Gilles with the winner, but marshaling that back line, and you have Jade Rose in there, who I think quietly could maybe even be named Canada's best player over the course of those 2 games. I think Jessie Fleming has led in an exemplary fashion. She's wearing the armband now with the retirement of Christine Sinclair, and she's one of 6 players on this team. It's their 3rd Olympics. So you think of that changing of the guard, but there are some players who are in there who are at the helm and are leading in the right way, and they're playing some really good football. And I mean, you add into that, players who have that grit and that fearlessness and that bravery about them. I think that if I'm Colombia, I'm a little bit fearful of Canada right now, but they've got some big weapons in the way of Maya Ramirez, I think one of the best number 9s in the game right now that they're going to really have to thwart, and Colombia will look to hit them on the break.
All right, Footy Prime is the podcast. Amy, thanks very much.
Thank you for the mention, and sorry to your producer.
He was a nice guy. Well,
he's already been replaced.
He'll find other work. Don't worry about him.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Amy. Amy Walsh, former Canadian Soccer Olympian, CBC and TSN Soccer analyst, and in the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame.
Doogie, we could never replace you.
No, he knows it's all in fun.
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he gets thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
That's what happens when you work with the Tat Man.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you got to get it a little bit from the Tat Man.
It keeps the show going, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought Amy was very well spoken, though.
Oh, yeah.
Very well spoken.
Yeah.
She was great.
I love that. I loved it. I was searching for the word, and betrayal is absolutely the word for what happened there.
You know what's funny? Like, and she obviously played, so she understands. But, when there's turmoil above you, whether it's management or ownership or coaching staff, you know how easy it is for players to kind of congregate in the room and just start saying, can you believe this? Like, what a circus, what a disaster. And then, it turns into a distraction, and it can go one of 2 ways. It can kind of go where everyone starts to get sour on things, and it's not a great environment, and it doesn't feel super competitive. It doesn't feel like doesn't feel like you're knocking on the door to anything. Or it can go the other way, where it's like, we're all just going to band together and rally around this.
Yeah,
like, this is not going to define us. We're above this. We're better than this. And, this is a team with championship pedigree. They're the defending Olympic champions, gold medal champions. They definitely went the way of saying, this is not going to be our defining moment. We are better than this. And they got together, and now they're in control of their own destiny, which is great. They've saved the story for themselves.
How do you think the oppositions feel about that, though? Like, if you're France and I guess 3 days ago, you're thinking Canada's behind the 8 ball, we're in a good spot, and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, it's like, okay, Canada can still make it through. They shouldn't even be here. Like, I imagine being the other teams in this competition, though.
Yeah, I still stand by, like, I think it's a slap on the wrist punishment. Yeah. Like, it's
if it stops there.
Yeah, for sure. If it does,
it might not.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Is it going to get repealed?
No, I mean, that's sort of that could be lessened, but the investigation may turn out other things.
Deep. Yeah, who knows?
Which could be really problematic.
Yeah, and that won't just stop on the women's side. That'll be the men's side, and I think there's a lot of due process that probably needs to go on in order to uncover that stuff.
Then if you're transparent about what you found, and the IOC understands what was wrong, and I don't know what was wrong, but if it goes down a certain road, this could be really punitive.
Yes, guy. Yes, guy.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Could be. Yeah, could be. So Justin Turner, there's a couple of things that came out of his mouth today when he was traded to Seattle, letting the entire country down and unexpected in terms of his trade. Unexpected.
As of the last couple of days?
Well, maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe unexpected is the season they were having.
Right. I think unexpected, for coming into this season.
Sure, he didn't come here to have this happen.
Exactly.
That
would have been unexpected.
Yeah, he came here to compete for a playoff spot. Absolutely he did. And I'd imagine that's probably what he's saying. Unexpected that he was in a position where he ended up on a selling organization, and he's not in Toronto. Now he's in Seattle.
If he wanted to go to Seattle, he would have signed there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they lost 11-5 in the opener, and the next game will start real close to 7. The second half of the Twin Spin, the Jays in Baltimore. Coming up next, Chris Rose will be by, host of the Chris Rose Rotation Podcast. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050, TSN 2, the iHeartRadio app, and perhaps watching online. I can see O-Dog just, ripping a few steps to this.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's got some sneaky dance moves.
Oh, of course they'd be sneaky. Jim Tatti, Frank Corrado, and Mike DiStefano with you. Last half hour of OverDrive for today. Struddy will be with you and me tomorrow.
You want to do some hockey stuff tomorrow?
Or you and I. Sorry, bad English.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You want to do some hockey tomorrow?
Absolutely.
I had a guy come up to me. I'll never forget this. This was at a stag 2 years ago. We were doing shows in the summer, and we talk about baseball a lot, football. And he goes, you guys got to do 3 hours of Leafs every day. That's all anyone wants to hear about in this
guy.
city.
Yeah.
I said,
every day.
Every day, 3 hours of Leafs. July, August, doesn't matter.
Today is July 29th.
Yeah.
What would we possibly talk about?
I don't know, but
we have 5 minutes of Alex Nylander talk. Outside of that, what do we got?
I'm not sure.
It's been a quiet summer after the free agent frenzy, if you will. And
we got to let
draft.
it breathe. We got to let it breathe a little bit.
In the old days, they used to shut down the hockey department in the summer, but all of August, but not anymore.
No, I guess not. I got a question for you guys, actually.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Is it if you live in a house subdivision, is it a flex? You know what I mean by a flex?
I do.
Okay, it's like
I'm all flexed out.
How would you explain what a flex is?
If you're flexing,
like you're flexing your muscles,
okay,
bragging about something.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I don't do that. But nonetheless,
boasting about it.
Is it a flex if you're the first person on your street to have your recycling and compost and garbage out neat and tidy?
Well, it depends how many raccoons you have in the area.
No guy is the answer. Is that something? That's something you take pride in, being the first guy.
I had everything out today at 1:30, ready to go, and I was like,
you pumped your chest out and walked in the house, didn't you?
Yes.
What, in the morning or afternoon?
No, this afternoon on my way here. I put recycling, compost.
Wait, for
garbage.
tomorrow?
For tomorrow morning.
You're
going
to get rodent sky. That's a bad move.
I have everything. It's orderly. It looks great.
Sorry, guy.
And I was the first person on my street to have it out. You don't think that's a flex?
Complete waste of time.
Ask Chris Rose.
That's Chris.
Ask Chris Rose if he thinks that. I'll bet he thinks it's a flex.
That's bringing Chris Rose, host of the Chris Rose Rotation Podcast. Chris, we're having this inane conversation about lining up your recyclable and garbage, 12 hours before it's actually picked up. Do you go there?
You got to take it out the night before because they come first thing in the morning.
Exactly.
The night
Thank
before.
You, Chris.
Yeah, the night before, not the afternoon
Frankie
before.
put it out at noon for tomorrow's 8 a.m. pickup.
Listen, we're on the air, Chris. We're on the air till 7. Takes me half an hour to get home. Then I want to eat dinner. And then I don't want to go out and have to deal with the garbage. So I did it before I came in today. Is that not like that? I think it's kind of a flex.
But and then he puffs the chest out and he's proud that he's the only one on his block with that deed already done.
Well, wait, when are they picking it up? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, first thing. They come at 7:30 at my house.
And so what, you're telling me it was out there for 24 hours?
No, it got out there at 1:30 this afternoon, and it's going to get picked up at 7 a.m.
Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good. I mean, ours is out for probably 20 hours, to be honest with you. So,
wow, no rodents in the area.
Chris Rose knows.
Yeah, no extraneous rodents in the area. Okay, good to know.
I'm in LA. There's a lot more than just rodents.
That was my way of getting you to say that, Chris. I didn't want to go there. What do you make of what the Jays have done? Obviously, Turner's the latest to go, and I think there's one expiring contract, Kikuchis, of value left. What do you make of what they've done so far?
This is the easy part. I mean, yeah, of course you're going to get rid of the guys who aren't going to be there after this year anyway. I mean, this is not where you make your money or your organization significantly better, in my opinion. It's when are you willing to deal guys who can help you next year? Because, I mean, the Blue Jays have been the most disappointing team in baseball. It's pretty simple. I had them representing the American League in the World Series. I don't think that's going to – I'm going to go out on a limb. Don't think it's going to happen this year. So now you got to figure out – I mean, Bichette, obviously, with him being on the injured list, that's a tough one. And I think he would have been selling at the lowest point of his career. It just – he hasn't been a good baseball player for over a year, and I don't know exactly what's happened, but we can discuss that at another date. With Vladdy, you do one of two things. You either trade him right now, and he instantly becomes the biggest game-changing bat on the market, and you can change the trajectory of your farm system and hopefully your organization for years to come if you hit on those guys, or you sign a new extension. I mean, I'm not going to keep playing this game because now you're going to get to next year, and then that's it, and then what? Like, this is a true seller's market. There is not a game-changing bat that we're aware of that's available. So they could do that if they wanted to. Like I said, I would do one of those two things.
They could. The thing is, they've kind of made mention of the fact that they want to be competitive next year. And they also
can be.
Well, for sure, but that's what they're saying. And we constantly talk about how difficult it's going to be for them to be sellers and then simultaneously be buyers, especially considering the fact that they couldn't even get it right when they had all this runway to get it right. So now how are you going to expedite it in 1 year? And they've also renovated the ballpark. So it's going to be difficult for them to sell the, long-term vision again when they need sales and they need the luxury suites all filled up. Like, there's so much going on here with this team, but it doesn't seem like they're going to go down the road of a full scorched earth rebuild. They got to try and retool it, and I don't know if you see how they can get that done in 1 year's time, even if they just open the wallet and start spending a bunch of money.
I mean, I disagree with you. I think you can get back in, particularly if you're able to build up your farm system pretty quickly. I mean, you can go shopping for all sorts of different prospects. You can go for guys that are on the cusp of making it to the big leagues. You can go really young for guys that are 19 and 20 and 2 to 3 years away from the big league. So it's up to you. I mean, they could dictate the terms of a trade with Vlad. I'm not saying that that's the best move to make. I'm just saying they have to really strongly consider it. I don't think it's like, nah, we're not going to do it, because this has not worked. This has not worked, and I'm as shocked as anybody. I mean, I love the rotation coming into this year. I thought that if you could get a bit better performance from the bullpen, that the lineup was going to be fine, and it's just been horrific on so many levels. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, guys, but, man, it's just, I don't know. To me, pick a lane, and trading guys on expiring contracts is not picking a lane.
No, I completely agree. And we've looked at it, like we talked about this earlier today, where the Rays, they picked the lane. They decided to sell. And now you kind of look, they were able to bring in a bunch of prospects, and they can retool it pretty quickly, it looks like, and go at it again next year, the year after. There's still one guy out there that might be able to bring back a decent return for the Blue Jays, and that's Yusei Kikuchi. What do you think his value would be like at this point, now that we've seen some trades go down? There's still a couple of arms that are out there. Is he going to get the Jays a decent return at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he'll far and away be the best one of those guys that they either have or will get rid of, because he's a guy that can give you a little bit of length, Not a ton. I know he gets up there in his pitch count. But he did have a career-high 13 strikeouts. Their team's always looking for swing and miss. So if he can, if people can bottle that and get that every 5 days, they're going to be excited about it. How many more starting pitchers are there left? To me, it really, because Kikuchi and Jack Flaherty are in similar boats, I would favor Jack Flaherty a little bit more. I thought he's had an awesome bounce-back year. The wild card is what the Giants do with Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Like, he could change the pitching market if they decide to move on from him. So, I would say right now, as far as starting pitchers available, I would go Flaherty 1 and then Kikuchi with Blake Snell as the we don't know factor.
Chris, we're with you on pick a lane. So the question that comes out of that was they didn't really pick a lane last offseason. Are you confident this front office can actually do that?
I mean, like I said, I thought they had it right this year. So I don't know. I mean, you guys talk to the fans on a daily basis, and you hear all the noise up there. Aren't people shocked that this is the way it's gone down?
Yeah. I think the big issue is a lot of the warts we saw last year crept back up this year, and they didn't change them. They thought they were going to get the internal improvement, and it didn't come. Are they going to bet on that for a second straight season? I think that's the question that people kind of question the front office. How could you possibly do that again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they didn't score runs against the Twins in that little 2-game, whatever we want to call it, series. And then, but that's always hard to tell. I don't even remember. Was that a season-long thing last year? Because it sure didn't feel that way.
The biggest issue I would say with the Jays last year was mainly they couldn't scoring in with runners in scoring position was the biggest issue that they had last year. And they thought they made some additions. They went full lefty bats last season also, and that didn't really help. Right. They thought maybe some contact would do better, and they gave up a little bit of power from the year before. And they pretty much decided to revert a little bit this year. They balanced out the lineup again, but they still did not find a way to manufacture runs, and the running and scoring position was still quite awful, to be quite honest with you. And then all the injuries and the bullpen blew up in their face. You didn't get as healthy as a pitching staff as you had a season ago, and it all just went haywire for the Jays this year.
Yeah, it really has. It's just their offense has been horrible to watch.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's been brutal. But, yeah, I mean, do I have the confidence in them? I can understand why people don't, But like I said, I was on board, so I'm guilty as charged. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do you guys a huge favor, okay?
Please do. Please.
I am done picking the Blue Jays to do anything well or any of your players to do anything well individually.
Okay.
Last season, I picked Alek Manoah to be the Cy Young winner.
Wow.
Holy smokes, that one was
the kiss of death right here.
Really good work.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Good. Are you picking Aaron Rodgers and the Jets to make the playoffs? Because if you are, it feels like he's not going to make it past 4 snaps again this year.
Hey, don't blame that on me. That was not my fault.
Well, what was your prediction last year?
I did not have that one. I didn't have that. I don't even know who I had last year, but I probably had the Niners and somebody. I always pick the Niners. They're a pretty good organization.
Very consistent. Yeah. And you know what? Now we're getting viz of Rodgers and the Jets, and things don't look overly peachy there. What do you think of it? Not a big deal, or I don't know. How do you feel about the Jets and Rodgers?
I don't care about that stuff. What happens, who cares? That stuff at the end of the day, I'm sure they were fine second afterward. This is not breaking news. It's tough sometimes to play with Aaron Rodgers. He might be the most talented player in the history of that position, but he's tough. He's tough on his guys, and he's tough on guys who are great as well. And I think Garrett Wilson's going to have an amazing year. So I think they'll be fascinating. I'm really curious to see how much ground they've made up on the Buffalo Bills in that division. Whether you like or dislike Aaron Rodgers, I think they're really, really good, fun watch this year.
Well, speaking of that division, there was another quarterback that got paid quite handsomely over the weekend, Tua Tagovailoa, as did Jordan Love, both those two signing some big monster extensions. What did you make of the deals that they made? And do you think that, were you surprised, I guess, to see how much guaranteed money Tua got specifically, knowing his injury history?
No, but I mean, if you're going to sign him, you have to. I mean, the only option they would have had was have him play out his fifth-year option this year and then tag him, right? So if you wanted to do that, you could, but you're kind of screwed if you go that way. It's just going to escalate your cap. No, it's just going to be a really bad situation. So they've just figured, hey, listen, he showed us what we can do. Now, if you're asking me, do I think that Tua's a top 10 quarterback? I don't. I think everything has to be perfect for him. Like, we saw what the difference was. They had a chance to not only win the division last year for the first time since 2008, they had a chance to nail down the 2 seed, which meant the only road game they would have had to play was the AFC Championship game. And then you saw the difference between them playing at home and them playing on the road. They had no shot in Kansas City, 0 shot in the chill. So that's the thing, is that whole team, and Tua is the leader of that, where if things aren't ideal, if it's not 81 and comfortable, well, they can't win a football game. That's rough, man.
Well, we'll leave it on that. Chris, thanks very much. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, guys. Always fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Rose, host of the Chris Rose Rotation Podcast. OverDrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. FanDuel picks next on OverDrive, TSN 1050, TSN 2, the iHeartRadio app, and perhaps watching online. All right, final segment for a Monday. Jim Tatti, Frankie Corrado, and Mike DiStefano. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks, assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Doogie?
All right, guys, let's roll with the Texas Rangers at -112 on the money line. Nathan Eovaldi on the mound. They just came to Toronto and got swept. That's highly unlikely for a team who just won the World Series, coming in on a high and then losing 3 straight to the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm expecting a bounce back against the St. Louis Cardinals. And then I'm rolling with the Seattle Mariners. That's an underdog at +102. Logan Gilbert on the mound for the Mariners. And they've been at a high, this team, just acquiring Randy Arozarena. The Red Sox have been pretty brutal as of late, so going to get that at plus odds. It totals +282 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app.
Okay, so today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. Doogie, do we have a poll update? Can we squeeze that in? Maybe not.
We sure do, boys. We sure do. Let me bring this up quickly here.
Oh,
with 4 minutes left on our poll.
It hasn't really changed.
Canada Soccer's redemption at 51%. Summer McIntosh coming in at about 42%. Canada basketball at about 2%.
You're the only person that has ever followed up with the poll to finish the show, Jimmy.
I do cut my own path. That's all I can say.
Some people are just built differently.
Well, I always started something. I like to, as I'm leaving, I'd like everything to be put in its place so I can go.
You put a bow on things. That's what you do.
Well, among other things, yeah.
No loose ends. Do we have any other?
Yes, guy.
Thank you. Do we have any other housekeeping items here?
I'm all up to date. You've got about a minute to go, and then you're up to date.
No, I think this was a good show. Doogie's flashing the phone at me. What's he got?
Well, we've been talking about Summer McIntosh winning the gold. Got to give credit to Chris Kikuchis, who won Canada's first gold in judo today.
Yes. I can't say that I understand anything about judo, but congratulations and shout out because that is awesome.
Best in the world. That's all you need to know. She's the best in the world at what she does.
Number one.
It's like Tatti.
Gold. Yeah. Number one, gold.
This was good. Good job, Jimmy.
Yeah, another nice 45 seconds and we'll be happy with things.
Do you want to promo your show again?
Yes, Guy, the radio show, TSN 1050, Thursday and Friday, 10 a.m. to noon.
Sometimes Al's brother and myself make appearances on the show.
AB could be on this week. I'm trying to sign him up for a Yes Guy, No Guy segment.
Are you going to do Thursday and Friday this week, Yes Guy,
double,
and then do OverDrive as well?
Yes, but the Yes Guy on Friday is only an hour long because of Olympic obligations.
You know what you need to do? You need to carb load for that. That's a big week.
Yeah.
Maybe some ice cream.
Yeah. No ice cream. The ice cream has been banned. You know what? We'll do this again tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.